Hey everyone, it's Taehyung. I don't know if you're watching this at night before bed or early in the morning on your way to school or work, or maybe during a moment when you just need something to hold on to. Wherever you are, thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to listen to me, especially today. Tonight or today, or whenever you're listening to this, I'm not here as V from BTS. I'm here simply as Taehyung, the person behind the smiles, behind the lenses, behind the performances, the person who gets tired, makes mistakes, tries his best, and sometimes hurts more than he lets anyone see. You've seen me laugh. You've seen me perform with confidence. But today, I want to show you something else, something real, raw, and honest. Because sometimes the strongest thing we can do is to stop pretending everything is okay. I've learned that pain doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people we love the most. And when that happens, it feels impossible to breathe because your heart doesn't know whether to break or to keep fighting. That's why I'm here to tell you the truth, not the filtered version, not the version shaped by headlines, rumors, or the opinions of people who were never there, but my truth, the one I lived, the one I felt, the one I couldn't run from. If while listening you feel emotional, if your chest feels tight, if your eyes get watery, I want you to know something. It's okay. You're safe here. You're not weak for feeling. You're human. And if something in my story reminds you of something in your life, maybe a friendship, a relationship, a betrayal, a misunderstanding, a moment you didn't deserve, then please remember this. You are not alone. You matter, and you deserve to be believed. So take a breath, get comfortable, hold a pillow, sit in your favorite corner, wrap yourself in a blanket, whatever makes you feel warm and seen. Because I'm finally ready to talk, ready to share the truth, ready to tell you everything that happened, even the parts that hurt the most. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being strong enough to hear my heart, not just my voice. I never thought my heart could break in front of people I love the most. I always believed that no matter how hard life got, as long as we stayed honest and sincere, we would be safe with each other. But that night, everything I believed in shattered. When I walked into the room, I wasn't expecting anything dramatic. It was supposed to be a calm, private gathering, a small moment of peace after weeks of exhausting schedules. Just us, our closest circle, and Jungkook's mother, who had always treated me warmly. I came with excitement in my heart because I missed seeing everyone relax, laugh, and breathe for a moment. I never imagined I would leave that room feeling like I didn't belong in their lives anymore. I noticed right away that something was different. Jungkook looked nervous, like he was trying to smile but couldn't. His mother didn't greet me the way she usually did. She didn't hug me. She didn't even smile. She just looked at me with disappointment, with pain, with something I couldn't understand. I tried to pretend I didn't notice. I sat down and for a few minutes I forced myself to act normal. But then she said my name, Taehyung, we need to talk. My heart dropped. I didn't know why. I didn't know what I did wrong. I looked at Jungkook, hoping his eyes would reassure me, but he looked away. That was the moment I felt the fear settling in my chest. Then his mother told me everything, slowly, without raising her voice, without anger, only hurt. She said Jungkook had been distant from the family, avoiding calls, coming home less, not spending time with them. And she believed it was because of me, because I was supposedly a bad influence, because I was changing him, because I was making him care less about his family. I felt like someone pressed their hand against my chest and ripped something out of me. I couldn't even react. I wanted to ask why she believed that. I wanted to defend myself, but my voice disappeared. All I could do was stare at her with shock and heartbreak written all over my face. I turned to Jungkook again, hoping, begging that he would say something, anything, that he would defend me, that he would tell his mother that I wasn't the problem, that my presence wasn't destroying anything. But Jungkook just lowered his head, as if he didn't know what to say, as if he didn't know whose side to take. In that moment, I felt the room fade, and suddenly it was just me standing alone in front of an accusation that I didn't deserve. I tried to hold myself together. I swallowed the pain, hoping my voice wouldn't break. I would never take Jungkook away from his family, I whispered. I could barely hear myself. I love him. He means everything to me. I would never hurt him. But the more I tried to explain, the more I saw her eyes fill with anger and disappointment. She didn't believe me. She thought I was lying. And that was the part that destroyed me, because I always respected her deeply. I never wanted to be a burden to anyone's family. She kept talking, and with every word, it felt like a knife turning inside my chest. She said, Jungkook used to be different before me, more obedient, more responsible, more family oriented. And now, because of me, she believed he was slipping away. I didn't even realize tears were streaming down my face until Jungkook finally looked up and saw me breaking. I wasn't crying because I was hurt. I was crying because I suddenly felt like I was the villain in a story I didn't write. I felt like I was being blamed for loving someone too much, for being too close, for mattering. And while I was falling apart, Jungkook still said nothing. I felt the world close in around me, suffocating me. Even when I tried to wipe my tears to stay strong, my hands were shaking uncontrollably. It was the most helpless moment of my life, wanting to defend myself, but also terrified that if I spoke any louder, everything would break even more. When I finally said, I'm sorry if you think I'm the problem, my voice completely cracked. I wasn't apologizing for something I did. I was apologizing for existing. And I hated that. I hated how small I sounded. I hated how powerless I felt. But I didn't know what else to do. Because deep down, I wasn't just scared of losing their trust. I was scared of losing Jungkook. And the room was so quiet that I could hear my own breathing shaking. When Jungkook's mother said it, it felt like everything inside me collapsed all at once. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to cut straight through my chest. You're the reason my son is losing himself. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I felt my knees weaken, and I didn't know whether I should sit, stand, speak, or just disappear. My whole body felt numb, and all I could hear was the echo of that sentence repeating over and over in my head. I never wanted to be the reason Jungkook was lost. I never wanted to take anything away from him. I always thought I was helping him grow, not pulling him away from his family. I kept waiting for Jungkook to say something to defend me, to defend us, to defend the years of friendship and loyalty we built. But he was frozen, trapped between his mother's expectations and my pain. And I couldn't blame him for loving his family. I just wished, at least for that moment, he could love me loudly enough to protect me. I tried to speak again, but my voice broke instantly. Jungkook, please tell her. Please tell her. I'm not what she thinks. You know me. You know my heart. Jungkook finally looked up at me, and the fear in his eyes made me feel defeated before he even opened his mouth. He looked like a child scared to disappoint both sides. He didn't want to hurt me, but he didn't want to challenge his mother either. And so he said nothing again. I wiped my tears aggressively, angry at myself for crying in front of them. I wanted to be strong, but I couldn't hold it together. The pain was too big, too sudden, too personal. It felt like someone had walked straight through my chest and taken every memory, every laugh, every moment of comfort I had shared with Jungkook and turned it into a weapon against me. Jungkook's mother continued, and every sentence hurt more than the last. She said Jungkook became different because of me, more rebellious, more independent, more emotional. But she didn't understand that those weren't changes I forced on him. They were because he was growing, he was learning to think for himself, he was becoming a man. I never controlled him, I supported him, I believed in him. I encouraged him to chase happiness even if the world didn't understand him. But in her eyes, I was the obstacle, I was the distraction, I was the threat. And the moment I realized that nothing I said would change her mind, I broke in a way I didn't know was possible. I felt something snap inside me, not anger, not resentment, just heartbreak. The kind that leaves you silent because you've run out of strength to even breathe. I stood up from the chair slowly. My legs were shaking, but I forced myself to stand anyway. I didn't want them to see me fall apart any more than they already had. I kept my eyes on the floor because I was too afraid to look at Jungkook's mother, too ashamed, too hurt. But then I made the mistake of looking at Jungkook. His eyes were filled with tears too, but he still wasn't moving. He still wasn't speaking. He still wasn't fighting. Not for the truth, not for me, not for us. And in that second, I whispered to myself, why do I always have to be the one defending what we have? I took a deep breath, shaky, painful, and forced myself to say the words that tasted like poison. If I'm ruining your life, Jungkook, then I'll leave. His face instantly crumbled with panic. He stood up halfway, his hand reaching out like he wanted to stop me but didn't know how. Taehyung, wait. But I stepped back and he froze again. He couldn't choose. He was trapped by the guilt and the pressure that had been placed on him since birth. I knew it wasn't his fault. I knew he loved his family. And I would never ask him to choose between them and me because that's not love. But I couldn't stay there another second. I walked toward the door slowly, my tears falling so hard I couldn't see clearly. I could hear Jungkook's mother exhale in relief, like she had just solved a problem instead of destroying a person. Then I heard Jungkook's voice, quiet, broken, desperate. Hyung, please, don't go. I stopped not because I wanted to, but because my heart reacted before my body did. Hearing him call me Hyung with so much pain almost pulled me back into his arms. But I forced myself not to turn around because I knew if I looked at him, I would collapse onto the floor and beg him to take my pain away. And I refused to let myself become that version. I didn't leave because I didn't love him. I left because I loved him too much. And if staying meant being the reason he hurt his family, then the only thing I could do for him was break my own heart. The last thing I heard before the door closed behind me was Jungkook's voice cracking, calling my name, but unable to choose me out loud. And that silence from him, more than the accusation, was what truly destroyed me. The hallway outside the room felt colder than any winter I had ever lived through. I didn't run. I walked slowly because my body didn't even have the strength to move fast. Every step felt heavy, like my feet were dragging chains. I kept my head down, hoping no one would see my swollen eyes, the shaking in my hands, or the way I couldn't stop biting my lip just to stop myself from sobbing out loud. As soon as I turned the corner and was out of sight, the tears wouldn't stop anymore. I pressed my hand against the wall, trying to hold myself together, but I couldn't. My chest hurt so much that I thought something was physically breaking inside me. People talk about heartbreak like it's emotional, but in that moment, I realized heartbreak is physical too. It's a pain that claws its way through your ribs and squeezes your lungs until you feel like you might collapse just trying to breathe. I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch the wall. I wanted to disappear, but I did nothing. I just stood there, silently falling apart. I didn't understand how everything went so wrong so fast. How love, the purest thing in my life, became the reason I was seen as a threat. I kept replaying the scene over and over in my head. The disappointment in Jungkook's mother's eyes, Jungkook's silence, the moment my voice cracked when I apologized for something I didn't do, and the sentence that destroyed me, "You're the reason my son is losing himself." I didn't want to take him away from anyone. I just wanted to be someone who made his life easier, someone who made him smile, someone he felt safe with. But instead, I became the reason people doubted him, the reason he was being judged. And that realization crushed me more than anything. I wiped my face with my sleeve over and over, trying to erase the evidence of my breakdown. But the tears kept falling faster than I could stop them. I wanted to leave the building. I wanted to go somewhere, anywhere where no one knew my name, where no one expected anything from me, where I didn't have to be strong or cheerful or perfect. I wanted a quiet corner of the world where I could finally admit how tired I really was. I took the elevator down to the parking area. I didn't even remember pressing the button. My mind was somewhere else entirely. When the doors opened, I stepped out and started walking toward my car, but suddenly I heard footsteps running behind me. Hyung, wait. Taehyung, please. Jungkook. I froze again the same way I did when I heard him call my name before I walked out. My heart begged me to turn around instantly, but my mind screamed at me not to. I stood there shaking, not knowing what to do. And then I felt his hand on my wrist. That touch, warm, desperate, terrified, destroyed every bit of the emotional wall I was trying to build. I still didn't look at him. If I saw his face, I would crumble completely. His voice was trembling. Please don't leave like this. Please talk to me. I swallowed hard, trying to find my voice. Talk about what, Jungkook? About how your mother sees me as a problem? About how she thinks I'm ruining your life? About how you didn't defend me even once? My voice wasn't angry. It was tired, exhausted. I didn't have the energy to fight. I didn't want to hurt him. I just wanted to understand why loving him suddenly became something I had to apologize for. Jungkook stepped closer, still holding my wrist like he was afraid I'd disappear if he let go. I didn't defend you because I froze. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to protect both you and my family at the same time. I finally turned around, slowly, and when I saw his face eyes red and full of guilt, my heart shattered all over again. You don't have to protect both, Jungkook, I whispered. You don't have to choose me. I would never make you choose. He shook his head. I'm not choosing them over you. I'm trying to find a way where I don't lose either of you. I looked into his eyes, and for a few seconds it felt like everything paused, like the world around us disappeared and it was just us again. The same two people who laughed until sunrise, who leaned on each other through every storm, who promised silently that no matter how big the world got, we'd never let go of each other. But life was no longer that simple. Your mother hates me now, I said quietly. Nothing I say will fix that. She doesn't hate you, he insisted immediately. She's afraid. She thinks she's losing me. That's why she reacted like that. He looked down as if admitting something painful. She thinks I love you more than I love her. I stepped back like those words were a punch to the stomach. I knew the bond between us was strong, but I never imagined someone would see it as a threat, especially a parent. Jungkook looked straight into my eyes, his voice barely above a whisper. And she's not wrong. I froze. The parking area suddenly felt too quiet, not because there was no noise, but because the world stopped inside me. My heartbeat was so loud I could hear it in my ears. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know whether to cry again or collapse into his arms. I didn't know if hearing that was healing me or breaking me even more. Because the moment Jungkook confessed, that the moment he admitted that he loved me more than the world expected him to, the real problem finally surfaced. It wasn't that I was pulling him away from his family, it was that he chose me without even realizing it. And that truth was about to change everything more than the accusation, more than the tension, more than the heartbreak. That love was the real reason his mother feared me. And now we both had to face the consequences of a truth that neither of us could take back anymore. For a moment, neither of us moved. We just stood there, surrounded by silence and fluorescent lights, holding on to something fragile and terrifying. Jungkook's confession kept replaying in my head like an echo. I couldn't escape. She thinks I love you more than I love her. And she's not wrong. I didn't know if he realized what that meant, not just for us, but for everything around us, for expectations, for family, for the world watching us, for the image he was supposed to protect. Love wasn't supposed to be complicated, but somehow ours had become something dangerous. I took a shaky breath. Jungkook, you weren't supposed to say that. He stepped closer, refusing to let go of me. I've been trying not to say it for so long. I've been holding it in because I didn't want to make your life harder. But tonight, his voice broke. I almost lost you because I stayed silent. I can't do that again. My heart clenched so tight I felt dizzy. I looked away because I couldn't handle the intensity in his eyes. You didn't lose me. I walked away because I don't want to hurt you. You could never hurt me, he said instantly. I forced a small, painful laugh. You say that now, but what about tomorrow? What about next year? What about when the pressure hits harder? What if the people you love look you in the eyes and blame me again? Will you be strong for us every time? Will you be able to fight every time? I don't want you to suffer because of me, Jungkook. He squeezed my wrist tighter desperately, like he was afraid of losing his grip on reality if he lost his grip on me. I don't want to live a life where loving you is a secret I'm punished for. And that was it, the sentence I had been terrified to hear. Because I loved him too, just as deeply, just as painfully, but I also loved him enough to protect him from a world that would never understand us. I could feel the tears burning again. We can make decisions based on what we want. We have to think about the weight that comes with it. Your career, your family, your happiness, none of that should fall apart because of me. He shook his head violently. Why is it always you trying to protect me? Why don't you ever let me protect you, Hyung? Why don't you believe that I can handle this with you? Because I didn't want to see him get hurt. Because I didn't want to be the reason the world hated him. Because the love I had for him wasn't selfish. It was the kind that would rather break itself than break him. But I didn't say any of that. I just looked at him and whispered, "You don't know what the world will do to us." "I don't care about the world," he replied immediately. "I care about you." That was the problem. His love for me wasn't something he could control, and neither was mine. We were both drowning in something bigger than we could manage. My knees finally gave out, not from weakness, but from the weight of every emotion fighting inside me. Jungkook reacted instantly, catching me before I hit the ground. And for a moment, I let myself collapse into his arms, burying my face into his shoulder, shaking, crying, letting everything spill out that I held back for so long. "I'm so tired, Jungkook," I sobbed. "I'm so tired of fighting the world every time I choose you." He held me like his life depended on it, his hand on the back of my head, his voice breaking with mine. "Then don't fight the world alone. Let me fight with you. Please don't leave me alone in this." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him more than anything. But love wasn't the only thing we were carrying. There was fear, pressure, expectations, judgment, people who would tear us apart without thinking twice. So instead of answering, I whispered something that scared me more than anything. What if loving each other ruins everything we've built? Jungkook pulled back slightly, his forehead resting against mine, breathing heavily, tears falling without shame. "Then let it ruin everything, as long as I don't lose you." I stared at him, at the boy I grew up with, the man he became, the person I loved more than I was ever allowed to admit. And in that moment, I realized something that terrified me even more than losing everything. I wasn't strong enough to walk away from him. Not anymore. But I wasn't strong enough to destroy his world either. So I made the hardest choice I had ever made in my life. I whispered softly, Then give me time. His expression twisted with fear, confusion, and hope all at once. Time for what? To figure out how to love you without being the reason you lose everything? Jungkook shook his head, terrified. I don't want time. I want you. I cupped his face with shaking hands, my thumbs wiping his tears even while mine kept falling. You will always have me, but right now we need time or the world will rip us apart before we're ready. His body trembled as he pulled me into a hug again, tight, desperate, refusing to let go, as if time itself was the enemy. I hugged him back with everything I had, even though every second was tearing me apart. Because the cruel reality was this: we didn't lose each other that night, but we didn't win either. We walked out of that parking area with our hearts tied together and our lives pulling us in different directions. And the time we were asking for was about to change us more than we ever expected. I stared at Jungkook, and for the first time in my life, I felt so far away from him. Far, even though he was standing right in front of me. I never wanted to hurt you, Cook. My voice cracked, but I forced myself to stay firm. I just wanted you to trust me just once. Jungkook bit his lip. His eyes were red not from anger, but from the pain he was trying so hard to hide. I trust you, Hyung, he said quietly, but I have to trust my mom too. Those words cut deeper than any shout or accusation. I could feel my chest collapsing from the inside. How was I supposed to fight something I could never compete with? How could I prove anything when the person he loves the most wanted the opposite? I lowered my gaze. If you really trust me, then why do you still doubt me? He didn't answer, and that silence hurt more than anything he could have said. I could feel the staff around us pretending not to look, but everyone heard, everyone knew, everyone judged. It was too late. I knew my reputation would fall long before the truth could ever come out. I am not going to defend myself anymore, I finally said. If people want to believe me, they will. If not, I can't force them. Jungkook reacted instantly. He stepped forward, afraid I might walk away. Hyung, don't go. His voice trembled. Don't distance yourself from me. I'm just confused. Everything happened too fast. I shook my head slowly. I'm not distancing myself, Cook, but you need to understand love, friendships, every relationship only survives when there's trust. And then the tears fell, not from me, but from Jungkook. He cried silently with his head down, trying to hide it because he knew the cameras might still be rolling somewhere. I wanted to hug him. Every part of me wanted to protect him from this moment. But I also knew if I touched him now, everyone would say I was manipulating him. So instead, I whispered, when you're ready to hear the truth, I'll be here. But until that day comes, I'll stay silent. I turned around. The cameraman lowered his eyes as if he could feel the weight of everything. The manager called my name, but I didn't care. As I walked away, I heard Jungkook's voice behind me, shaky, desperate, breaking. Hyung, don't forget me. But my feet couldn't stop anymore. Sometimes the only way to love someone is to give them space to realize who they really trust. And that day, I didn't leave the set because I lost. I left because for the first time I chose myself. When I got home that night, I thought I would finally be able to breathe. But the moment I closed the door behind me, the silence hit harder than anything that was said at the set. Silence can be peaceful for some people, but for me, that night it was suffocating. I leaned against the wall, staring into nothing. My phone buzzed over and over again managers, group chat, schedules, reminders, and Jungkook. His name flashed across the screen repeatedly, but I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew I would break the second I heard his voice. I already cried in front of too many people. I refused to break again. I finally opened one message from him. It was short, "I'm sorry." I stared at those two words for minutes. They were so heavy yet so light at the same time. What was he apologizing for? For hurting me? For doubting me? Or for letting me walk away? And then came the next message. "Please don't disappear from my life." That one destroyed me. I wanted to reply. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard so many times. I typed, deleted, typed again, deleted again. I was fighting with myself. My heart wanted to run to him, but my mind kept replaying the look in his mother's eyes when she accused me of something I didn't do. I closed the phone and threw it gently onto the couch, not out of anger, but because I didn't trust myself to keep reading. I went to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. My eyes were swollen. My voice still felt trapped in my throat. I looked like someone who lost a battle. But deep down, I knew I was fighting the biggest one of my life. I whispered to my own reflection, "You don't have to prove your worth to anyone." But the second I said that, I immediately broke again, because sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who make you feel like you're not enough. Hours passed, maybe 4, maybe 5. My thoughts wouldn't stop. Should I defend myself? Should I find proof I'm innocent? Should I confront his mom? Should I protect Jungkook even if doing so leaves me alone? There was no answer that didn't hurt. At 3:17 a.m., the doorbell rang. My blood ran cold. I opened the door slowly, and there he was. Jungkook, no staff, no manager, no cameras. Just him with his hoodie pulled over his head, face still swollen from crying. He didn't say a word. He just stood there in the hallway looking at me like he was scared I would vanish if he blinked. "Young," his voice was barely audible. "Can I come in, please?" I froze. Because this wasn't supposed to happen, he wasn't supposed to chase me. He was the one with everyone on his side. He was the one who had a home and support waiting for him. But he chose to stand in front of my door. I stepped aside without speaking. He walked in. He didn't sit on the couch. He didn't wipe his tears. He didn't even breathe properly. Then I hope you hear this clearly. You deserve better. You deserve to be trusted. You deserve to be loved without fear. You didn't lose because you walked away. You won because you refused to lose yourself. No matter what happened between me, Jungkook, and his mother, I still believe in love. I still believe in forgiveness. I still believe that people change, grow, learn, and sometimes return. Maybe someday the full truth will come out. Not because I fight for it, but because time has a way of revealing things nobody can hide forever. But until that day, I'll keep moving forward. I'll keep breathing. I'll keep loving the people who love me for who I am, not for who others say I am. And that includes you. You didn't have to watch this. You didn't have to stay. You didn't have to care. But you did, and because of that, I'm not alone anymore, and neither are you. So before this video ends, I want to say one last thing. Please choose yourself, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when you're shaking and crying and terrified of what comes next. Choose yourself, because the world is hard enough. Don't let your own heart become another battlefield. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for giving me a place to speak, to heal, to be seen. And if you're ever going through something like this, don't forget, you always have me. You always have us. You are part of this family, and you always will be. I'll see you again soon. Take care of yourself. Truly. I love you more than you know.